Hi everybody, I'm DJ Foster here with Grand Valley State head volleyball coach Deanne Scanlon for this 2015 GLIAC volleyball preview. Well, Coach, before we go into 2015, let's talk about 2014. A great year for your team, 27-6 overall record, regular season champs of the GLIAC. You hosted the regional tournament as the 3 seed and swept through the regional, made it to your 6th Final Four. A tremendous year for your team, but with that also came a tremendous senior class that had to leave. Caitlin Walters, the GLIAC Player of the Year and the GLIAC Setter of the Year last year. Abby Aiken, the Player of the Year before. Christina Canepa, the GLIAC Libero of the year last year. A really good senior class.
I'm getting really stressed.
Sorry about that. Yes, didn't want to throw that all at you, but I figured you'd have to see that eventually.
But
talk about kind of, moving on, first talk about last year, but then moving on into this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is a process. You mentioned those names, but I think we're at the place in our program like we were in the early 2000s where, we had those great players that graduated, but we had kids that are waiting in the wings for it to be their chance, and I really feel that's where we're at right now. It's always tough losing those seniors, especially that group. They've did a lot for the program while they were here, but it's time. It's time for this next group of seniors to step up and see what their legacy is going to be. Betsy Ronda is going to be a 4-year starter for us, so we hope for her to lead the way. It was also exciting news to get from the NCAA that Courtney Walters is going to get an extra year of eligibility back, and she had a tremendous spring. So, Kate is gone, but we have the next best thing in Courtney being there. So, big shoes to fill, but I feel really excited about the kids that, are returning. I thought we had a good spring. I think leadership is going to be the thing that is going to have to we're going to get into the middle of it to kind of see how that evolves, because the one thing is those kids that you mentioned, Aiken and Kate Walters and Christina Canepa, held down a lot of those leadership roles for a long time, and sometimes when you're following those people and then all of a sudden your turn to lead, it's a transition. So, but we've been working on that. It didn't come as any surprise that those kids were going to graduate and we were going to have that situation. So I'm excited to get started. We've got all this 4 days of nonsense we got to do before we get started on Sunday. So excited to get going next week.
You mentioned Rhonda and Walters. Talk about some other names that you're expecting to also be big leaders. Kaylee Lound was an All-American a couple years ago, and then you have a lot of younger players who are really looking to step up as well.
Exactly. Kaylee has just been just a tremendous rock solid player for us in the middle blocker position, and saw her really this spring just kind of take it to a different level as a leader too. Like I said, there's something that always kicks into your seniors. You see that kick in as you want that urgency and getting out of their comfort zone a little bit. And I saw Kaylee do that in the spring. But the group of freshmen we have coming in, I think there's a lot of opportunity. When you lose a setter, Caitlin Walters graduating, we've got to fill that spot. So we're going to look at some different options. We have Katie Olson, who I think is more than ready to take this team under her belt and lead them, as our setter. But we have a great freshman setter coming in, and Taylor Stewart. So I think they're going to battle it out. We're going to look at some different options, and I think you'll see a lot of different lineups until we can kind of settle into one, see what kind of fits, what kind of works.
Last year, anybody that followed your team knew that defense and passing was kind of your two strong points. It really got you on your run to the Final Four. But you lose a lot of that with obviously with Canepa graduating, Caitlin Walters, and Abby Aiken, who handled a lot of the serve-receive. What are you kind of looking at as some of your strengths this year? Obviously, maybe a little early to know that, but how are you planning to kind of combat the losses of them? Yeah,
I mean, you don't want to go away from what was successful for us, but you also got to look at your personnel, and you can't, put a square peg into a round hole. I think we have some good defensive players, but they're going to be inexperienced. So there's going to be people battling out for them. Amanda Glaza, someone that we look at the libero position. Taylor Showman, who joined us in the spring. I think she's going to be battling for that. And we have a freshman that's coming in that's got a lot of experience. So I think there's going to kind of maybe that position isn't going to be settled to start with. We're going to rely on some other things. Blocking is always a big part of whatever scheme that we do. We recruit to that. So I think that's something we're going to focus on early on and be strong in early on.
Obviously, it's fun to have such a talented senior class like you did last year, where I remember you said down at the Elite Eight, you didn't have to do a lot of coaching. No. It felt like, is it kind of fun to have a younger team and you kind of get to mold together and see how they come together? Obviously, you'd probably rather have the talented senior class, but when you have the young, inexperienced kids, it's kind of, is it fun to you at all?
Yeah, totally, because just to see how the older kids, they can't just go full steam ahead. They're going to have to take a step back and really work at integrating these young kids in, because we got 6 of them, and they are going to be impact players. They're going to be people that make a difference. So they're going to have to kind of, we've asked them to think back to your freshman year. What was it like? What was that first meeting like? The first time with the coaches yelling at you, or the first time these things happened, and what could you have used from an upperclassman at that point, or what would have helped you through that process. So we've done a lot of talking about that so that we can kind of help that. But this freshman class they've been good about being around, being at camps, really kind of, I feel like they're kind of a step ahead as far as how they're connecting with their teammates already. So we'll just keep our eye on it and see how it goes. Looking at the rest of the conference before we let you go, same names up top. Do you expect the same teams kind of to be, sitting near the top? Teams, everyone's losing some players somewhere. So is it just kind of who performs well at the beginning of the year and gets on a nice run? I think that's just the story of our conference year in and year out. Northern Michigan, I think, is going to be strong. Ferris, I think Saginaw will be a little bit better. I think Wayne State as well. They went through a coaching change last year, but I know they're doing some positive things down there. Hillsdale, Ashland, Finley. You just kind of, we always expect the best out of all of those teams. But yeah, I would say we probably lost the most to graduation. And I was only kind of joking when you were stressing me out, because I'm actually kind of excited about maybe we'll have a newness or a freshness to us this year, because we are going to have a different look to us. So I think we may have lost some talent, but I think we're just as equally gifted and talented in other areas. Well, it should be an interesting year. We're looking forward to it. The best of luck. The least amount of stress possible for you. And thanks for joining us on this GLIAC preview. Thanks, CJ.